Hey everybody, this is Geneva of, y'all hear that music in the background, Geneva's Closet. Please make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to Geneva's Closet if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at what? At Geneva's Closet. And you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. How y'all doing, everybody? How's everybody doing? I feel like I haven't been on live in a long time. I feel like I haven't talked to y'all in a long time. How's everybody doing? Hey, Linda, No Ledge, RHT4888. Everybody that's up in here, the people that was in here already, Pork Chop, Leah Brown, Valerie Wright, thank you so much for that, girl, about the book. First thing that I want to say is please excuse us if we have any technical issues. We are all coming from different places trying to give you this live interview with who? Miss Mary Harvey. She here to tell you her truth. She's here to finally tell it all. Now, what all she gonna tell? I don't know, people, but I know she will be talking about that book. And y'all know what book I'm talking about? Men Will Lie When the Truth Will Do. The King, His Queen, and His Other Woman, written by TERRI Smith. Y'all know who TERRI Smith is. Don't even play, because it's practically a series, people, over here on Geneva's Closet. Now let me reintroduce myself, just in case some of y'all don't know me. My name is Geneva McLean, and I am the creative producer and talk show host of this right here, Geneva's Closet. In addition to being a master research strategist, what do that mean? People, places, and things. You give me a little bit of information, and then I can find it for you, people. That's what I do. And then something else I want to let you know is that because I don't know how many people is going to be here today, I don't know what's going to be going on with this comment section, I turned the membership thing on. So if y'all want to ask Mary any questions, you want to be seen, make sure that you become a member, hit that membership, subscribe, or whatever it is, but hit it and become a member. And if Mary is talking and y'all ask a question, I'll make sure I write it down, and if she haven't already answered it, then I'll make sure to come back and ask Mary your question, since you are paying for it. And then I want to say, make sure that you advertise in Geneva's Closet. If you would like to advertise your business in Geneva's Closet, you can email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. And then, in addition to having Miss Mary here, we also have Miss Essie Berry here. And the reason why we got Essie, now how do I get Essie on the thing? I'm trying to figure out, how do I get her on the, oh, there she go. Hey, Essie girl. We got Essie and we got Mary here. There go Mary. Hey, Mary girl, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Isn't she looking pretty? Mary got, I mean, look. Stop playing. Y'all better stop playing. Mary done put her makeup on, got her hair done, looking all good. Y'all better leave her alone today. All natural, people. She's keeping it all natural. But anyway, Mary, how are you doing, lady? How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
And we are so happy to see you, Mary.
Well, Geneva, I just wanted to thank you because I had uh, done some video with a couple of networks and trying to tell my story my way. But before I signed off for the release, I wasn't really quite sure how they were gonna like cut it or do whatever they were gonna do without me being there. So I did sign the release, and I decided to talk to you, and this way I can control what I said, what I mean, and it not go into another context, you know? So I'm just grateful you let me come here and just tell my story my way in my words, which only I can do, based on the only truth that I know how to tell. And that's going to happen tonight. So I just wanted to thank you for the platform, really, because so many people come and they say, well, we want to hear your story, but they're not really wanting to hear my story. They're wanting to sensationalize my story and use it in a way that does not compliment me or the other characters in my life. And even though I have a lot to say, I'm not here to condemn anyone. That's not why I'm here. So I appreciate you letting me come so that I could like really be candid and take my time with this. We can spend as much time as we want talking about stuff. Uh, so here I am.
Absolutely no problem, Mary. I'm really happy that you contacted me and you are trusting me with your story because that's really how I feel about it. You know, like this is your story, this is your truth, and you haven't really spoke it like you will be speaking it today. So I'm just happy that you chose this platform, Geneva's Closet platform, to come and tell your story. And this is how I wanted to do this interview today. First of all, Essie is here with us today to be a support for Mary because Mary and Essie have been knowing each other since 2013 and have had their ups and downs. So that's why Essie is here to be a support for Mary. But basically, this interview is all about Mary. I'm really not going to be saying too much. I may say a little bit, ask a few questions. Essie may come in
Yeah,
there and
okay.
say a few things. But this is pretty much all about Mary. She gonna speak her truth, say whatever she gonna say. I'm just sitting back listening, just like y'all listening. Okay, people? But I think the first thing that I want to say to you, Mary, is that in reading this book, Men Will Lie When the Truth Will Tell, The King is Queen and This Other Woman, written by Terry Smith. She said in this book that she met Steve in 91. Now, I know that I read in some article that you met him in 87 or 89, something like that, and that you met him in a club, and that's how you all met him in a comedy club, and that's how you all got together. Well, there's nothing better than having the person here who act like this is her story so she can tell exactly what happened. We don't got to hear from the blogs and none anymore. So, Mary, can you first start off? Because this will help us with some of the things that we done heard in this book when she started telling this story. Can you tell us like how you met Steve Harvey?
Well, first, I am definitely going to take myself out of that club category where he met these other two individuals.
Hmm.
I was at work, minding my business. I was at work. And I had gone outside of my job and to take a break. You know, I worked for a cosmetic company and I was on a break with one of my girlfriends. And we went out into the mall, got something to eat. I was walking back into the store and she said, "Looks like you got a fan." Huh? Odd choice of words, right? So I looked around. I didn't really see anybody. And so I just went on back in the store. And I don't want to get long termish because that's what I do. I'm a storyteller, so I don't want to get nah. So
That's okay,
anyway, I'm
Mary.
at work. I'm at work. You know, that was back during the days when you had to turn your purse in before you got back to work. So anyway, turn my purse in. I come downstairs, and he's standing there at the counter. And he came up to me, asked me my name, and I really didn't want to be bothered because I had just come out of well, actually, I was 3 years out of a divorce. And I was really just trying to take some time to get to know myself, something I hadn't had a chance to do coming up as a young lady. Just constantly being told what to do, what to wear, you know, how to breathe, what to say. And I'd gotten kind of like my full of that. So after my first marriage, I decided I was going to spend some time, you know, on me and doing what I wanted to do. You know, where did I want to go? What did I want to do without doing what a husband wanted me to do or doing with what my mom and dad thought I should do. So I was just kind of hanging out. So here he comes. I really didn't want to be bothered. He asked me my name, and I was not like in agreement to none of that. So eventually, and I was really rude when he asked me my name, and I'm all into this why and what do you want and all this kind of stuff. And I really felt bad that I had been like really rude. So I left my area where I was working, and I kind of walked around and I was looking around for him because I was so rude. So while I was walking around, he was watching me walking around. So I look over my shoulder and he's sitting right outside on this water fountain. And I look around and he says, "Are you looking for me?" And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So he came back in the store and reintroduced himself. He asked me if I wanted to go get some iced tea. And I told him, I just gotten back in for lunch. You got to wait or whatever, whatever. So anyway, that's how that happened. I was at work. I was at work, met me at the mall. It was not at a comedy club. And the town that I lived in, I was not even aware there was a comedy club. But after we went down to like this restaurant, Furs or Luby's or somebody in the restaurant, we sat there, we talked for a minute, and he asked me if I would go out with him. And I felt bad that I was rude. You know how we women are. We are so polite sometimes, even when we shouldn't be. So I said, well, I'm going to go down here and just at least, have some iced tea, whatever. So after we got through talking, and he said, can I have your number? And I want to do that. I have a boyfriend thing, but that would have been a lie. So I said, I'm just going to give the number. I'm just going to give the number. That way, I'll see his number. And if I don't want to answer it, I don't have to, answer it. So I gave him my number. So anyway, he called me later on while I was still at the store. I was working late. And I was like, okay, I don't want to just ignore the phone. So I answered the phone, and he said he wanted to know if I would meet him that evening. He had somewhere to go. He had some friends waiting on him, and if I wanted to just go to this club with him. He said it was his birthday. He didn't know anybody in town, and would I go? So I've been on my feet all day long. That was back in the day when, you had your heels on all day. I was 20 something, but I was like really tired, really exhausted. So I'm like, pull yourself together. It's not going to kill you. Just go. If you just go and just get this over with, you'll be out of that nice thingy and just going back with your life. You've done your duty. So anyway, I met him at this comedy club, and I didn't know he was there to perform anything. Had no idea. So he met me at the door, and he said, I got us a table. So I went in there and I sat at the table, and my feet were really hurting, but I was trying to walk like they weren't. So we got to the table, and he said, excuse me, I'll be right back. So they said the next performer coming up on the stage, and they announced him. And I was like, okay. So he went up on the stage, and he was actually funny. He really was. And I forgot about my sore feet and everything. So when he came down, he said, what do you think? And I said, wow, that was really funny. You did a good job. But like I said, I was exhausted. The show was over. Some people came up to him and said, how, enjoyed your show, your work or whatever. And they had that little cake thing out there. And I was really trying to get out of there. They were trying to buy him drinks or whatever. And I just kind of waved at him like, so he just told everybody, bye, thank you, bye. He was like, wait a minute. So I waited on him, and he asked me if I was hungry. Went to the waffle place. Actually, it was Denny's. We went to Denny's and had some breakfast, and that's how our introduction started. And then he had to leave town because he'd been there 2 weeks already, he told me. And he had to leave and go on another gig. That's what he said. So he started calling me. And a couple of times I would answer, but it was like so frequent, it just really started to bug me. And I was living with my sister Lois at the time. And she called me and said, and I'm like, so he kept calling. He was persistent. And after a while, I thought that was kind of cute because I kept saying, no, I don't think so, But I did like that about him. He was very persistent. He really was, because I really didn't want to be bothered. And it was like really nice after 3 years to just have somebody just like, really want to talk to you, really want to get to know you, whatever. And that's how we met.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep going on that?
I mean, you know what, Mary? It's funny because you said Waffle House, and as soon as you said Waffle House, the first thing I thought about was the book and how Terry mentioned the Waffle House. Yeah.
Well, I had to come a cut above the Waffle House.
Yes, boo boo. Yes.
But no, it really was. It was Denny's, and it was really funny because when we got there, he sat down, and I noticed he wasn't eating anything, right? And I said, wow, aren't you hungry? You didn't eat back at the club. And he was like, no, no. And he told the guy, he said, I'll just have my water. And I felt funny. I was like, okay, okay. So he asked me, what did I want? And I didn't want to like get all into his pocket or something like that. So I just kept it cool. I said, let me just have that Grand Slam. So he ordered the Grand Slam. It came to the table and I'm eating and he's still drinking this water and he's looking at me. Little did I know that was all he could afford was that Grand Slam. And he didn't tell me that at the time. So that was later on. But I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, I was really tired. I really wanted to go home because I had to like, open my area up the next morning. And he said, I really appreciate you coming out because, today was my birthday. I really didn't have any friends. And I said, oh, no problem. And I remember standing up and I kissed him on his jaw. And I'm like, that ought to fix me being rude. That'll be the end of it. We're even. But that was how the whole thing started. And like I said, he kept calling, and a couple of times he came into town, and he would come by the job where I worked. And he said, I'm in town for a day or two. Do you want to meet me over at the club? And they had this condo where they put all the comedians when they came into town. So that's where he was, but they did provide like a car for the comedians. So he came by, he took a cab over there, and he said, I wanted to kind of hang out, but I don't have a car. They dropped me off. And I said, okay, it's no problem. Let's go somewhere. I don't remember where we went. It was a long time ago. I have no idea. But went back to the comedy club that time, watched him perform again. A couple of his things that he was doing like really wasn't that funny. And but I just kind of like, yeah, you're really funny. Maybe you need to tweak this and tweak that. Because at that time he had that beard, and the audiences were predominantly white. And I did make a suggestion that you might want to lose the beard when you're doing your comedy, because you can look a little, overwhelming for some people. So he didn't want to lose it because he had it for a long time, but eventually he did. And anyhow, I feel like I'm rambling again, so you might need to ask me something more specific. What you want me to?
Girl, you was doing good, sure. We ain't never heard these. I got my arm all up here. I'm all got my water.
This was the thing. Let me try to put it together, because this was a long time ago. So what I did like about him though is that one time I was at work, and this was maybe 2.5 months after we met. I'm at work and I saw him coming toward me, and he was walking like I got all the answers in life. So he was strutting up to me and had this box in his hand. It was a big, huge, ugly box, like a brown cardboard box. So, and I was like, why does he have this ugly box? And he was walking toward me so anyway, he put the box on the counter. He said, I brought something for you. And I'm looking at this big ugly box like, did you really? So he said, open it. I opened the box, and there were like hundreds of Hershey's Kisses in that box. Okay. So, and I'm looking down at the box, and when I'm like going through them, because it was so many, it was a pair of shoes, and it was an old pair of shoes, his shoes. And there was a note in one of the shoes. And the note read, even if there were no planes, trains, or buses, I would still walk 1,000 miles for one of your kisses. And I was like, wow, that's kind of precious. That was kind of precious. And it really was. I never had anybody do that before, but he was really trying. Like I said, I didn't go for him right away, because I was kind of like, I don't know. But he was very persistent. He was always sending me cards, handwritten cards. When I finally had him coming by, like to my place. Um, I had given him a key, like maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months, to where if he came into town, he could just go there. So anyway, when I would come in, he would always have something cooked. Always. He was a good cook. So he was always cooking stuff for me, always making desserts for me, because his mom, he said, taught him how to cook, just in case he didn't have a wife or whatever. And we would eat dinner. I wouldn't have to do anything. He just said, "You relax. You've been on your feet all day." That's how that went. And the thing about it too, that once he would leave, it was like 2 days later, sometimes 3 days later, I kept finding these cards. He would write out these little cards and stick them all over my place, like between towels and on top of dishes or whatever. And during the time that he wasn't there, I kept finding all these little notes and stuff that I thought was really cute. And I've never had anybody go that far to try to impress me or whatever. So it kind of worked out in a way to where, it was like, I'm going to make you like me. I know you're not sure, but I'm going to make you like me at the end of the day. And that's pretty much how it was. Even though I didn't want to be bothered, it was like he convinced me that I'm the one for you. So that's how that went.
Wow, now ain't that something? Because in the book, it's like Terry was cooking everything, but you said that when Steve was with you, he was making meals for you.
No,
What?
he never required me to do nothing. Not ever, not never ever. Even when we were living together, we lived together for 6 years. Never once, where's you haven't cooked or, load of clothes, nothing. None of that. Not ever. Not one time did he try to make me feel like I should be doing something. So no. I guess I was a little higher up the totem pole. So,
He treated Mary special. Because when
yeah,
you
he
told me
did.
this story, Mary, I remember telling you that reminded me of that Why Do Fools Fall in Love, Frankie Lyman, how he had the
Hmm.
different
Hmm.
wives, and then how he treated all the wives differently, like he got something from all of them. Now, Mary, when
Yeah.
you was with Steve at the beginning, so you met him, and he was, yeah, I mean, he was very persistent, and the Hershey kisses. He never mentioned that he was married, so he never said that
No,
he was in a relationship, just
no,
nothing with a
no.
child, nothing.
Right. Because
Wow.
somewhere in between, I mean, when I felt myself trying to start to like him, I said, let me just ask you one thing. Are you married? Are you married? And he said, no, no, I'm not married. I said, okay. He said, but I have two daughters. Uh, he said that they were divorced. He had two daughters, and he went to Cleveland often for the sake of his girls. And that's where his mother and his father and his family lived. But he said, absolutely not. Absolutely no, 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 no. Because I told him I don't want to be messing with anybody's husband. So he said, no, absolutely not. I had no idea about Marcia, that he was married to her. I had no idea about that and didn't find out until we were living together for about 3.5 years. And his mother broke that news to me.
Okay, well, go and tell us that story, Mary girl. We just waiting for you
Okay,
to tell that
so
story.
about 3.5 years, we had been living together, and we had gotten like a townhouse by then. We thought we were doing something. And he was in the living room watching TV. And the phone rang. I went in the other room and I answered the phone, and it was his mother. And her and I, we were just kind of chatting on the phone. And she said, well, what are you and Steve doing? I said, well, we're talking about getting married. I was just trying to be funny. So she said, well, how he gonna marry you when he's already married? I said, what? How is he gonna? I said, wow. I said, Ma, I'll call you back. She said, something wrong? I said, I'll call you back. So I went in the living room and I said, is there something you want to tell me? And he looked at me and he said, no. I said, are you sure? Is there something that you want to tell me that's a secret that you know and your mom and daddy know that I don't know? None of my family knows. And that's when he got up off of the sofa. He came around, stood in front of me, and he started to cry. And I said, don't do that. Just answer my question. Just answer my question. So he fell to his knees and he grabbed me around my legs. And he was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Mary. Please don't be mad at me. Please don't leave me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. And he was just going through all of that. And I said, so what's the situation? By that time, she had filed, but it wasn't final. So that gave me a little piece that she had filed. And I'm going to try to remember everything. It was a long time ago. And everything is kind of all over the place. But of course, we stayed together, that's for sure. Because by that time, I had a severe brainwash on. So I stayed. And I'm trying to remember what happened next. Because like I said, you guys, I was in my 29 or something like that. And now I'm not, obviously. It was during the time when we had the comedy club. Now, in that book, she was saying Comedy Club Oakland. And he had said, I had to go get myself a club. Wrong. I told him he needs to get a club because there was a little small club in Dallas where he was starting to do some comedy out of, but it wasn't his. And he had really started to pack all these people in. And I just kind of had an idea that he wasn't like getting his fair share of what he should have been getting. So I said, okay, you got to get your own place. We need to get you, because these people were just wrapped around the parking lot. So obviously we didn't have any money. I didn't have any money. He didn't have any money. But with all of the clientele coming into that club, there were a lot of basketball players and football players and baseball players. They were coming into that club because it was the only thing happening, right? And they just thought he was just all kind of hysterical. So because I knew them, I went to them and I actually got them to put up the money for the club. I raised $250,000 and we came up with contracts so that we could give them their money back and then some. That's where the money came from. That's where the club came from. I found it. I designed it. That was my baby. And that was his club, the Steve Harvey Comedy House. So that was the club she was talking about. But I'm going to say this to Geneva, our 16 years. 16 years. There's a lot of information. I'm trying to line everything up. So it would probably be better if you pick something from that book and say, Mary, let's talk about this, because it's so much stuff. I got
a question. Did you think dude was cute? What did you find so attractive? That was just his ways, his personality, his sense of humor? What attracted?
He had a good person. He had a good personality. He really did. He acted real confident. I like that about him. Because my dad, he wasn't that at all. So I did like the fact that he was very confident. Like he knew what he wanted. He always said he knew what he wanted. He said, I want to be like the best comedian I can be. I want to get up to that Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor thing. And he was just adamant about that. Because he told me about some other jobs he had early on. He had talked to some of his family members, some of the guys he went to school with, and they just kind of laughed like, dude, get yourself a job. It's not going to happen. Get over yourself. But so he actually said, how badly he wanted this, how much he wanted it. And, I just said, okay, what can I do? What can I do to help? So that one thing I did like about him, I did think he was charming. He was charming. You know, he had his little dimples, and he gave great conversation. He had a great personality. And, you know, he really did. He really, I wasn't really shocked that he started to do well. We did not see all of the money. We had no clue that was coming, because we were like, hey, if we could just get our bills paid and take care of everything without up crying about it, we're cool. But then when the money just kept coming and coming and coming and coming, it was something we did not see. But yes, I thought he was cute. I thought he was very charming, and he was very determined, you know.
Well, when did you know, Every? Did you ever find about Terry up until now? So Geneva read the book.
I didn't know nothing about TERRI until 2000, when she sent that letter. When she sent that letter to him, we were at an apartment house, high rise, at Beverly Glen and Wilshire. And we had a penthouse apartment, but it was also there. We had a penthouse office above the our residence. So anyway, the doorman got this package, and it was just like U.S. on mail something, and it had like confidential like right across it. So they got it. They brought it to me instead of taking it upstairs. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting my hair done because this is our 2-year anniversary. Now, we'd already been living together for 6 years. So now we're at the 2-year anniversary. And the lady was doing my hair, knock on the door, give this package. Then Anna, the housekeeper, she brought it to me. And when she handed it to me, it was almost like that package burned my hand. I knew it was something crazy. I didn't want to look in it, but of course I had to look in it. So I opened it and I'm reading this letter. And the more I'm reading this letter, and her wording is so defined, it was like somebody was rolling tape. Her verbiage about him, like how he spoke, the words he said, how he walked in the room, everything. She was like painting a picture of him being, at their apartment or whatever. I don't know anything about a house. She said house in the book. I don't know anything about a house. All I know is that package that she sent there, it was to an apartment. At least that's what Cassie told me. So anyway, I'm reading this letter and I'm falling to pieces reading this letter. And the more she talked, because you saw the book, she's in that book talking about everything but how many hairs was on his left knee. So she was into this letter talking about everything. You came over here, you were so confident that you brought these, condoms with you, and on Megan's mom's, the night Megan's mom died. And I'm saying to myself, how would she know anything about Megan's mom if she didn't know him? So now I'm just like sweating on my head, on my arms. I'm just tripping. Then I get sick to my stomach. And I'm reading this letter. And I'm telling y'all, it was like one of the worst feelings in my life. And I read it to the end. And I looked over at Megan and I said, Megan, who is this? And she said, I don't know, Miss Mary. And I will give this to Megan, who she's calling Michelle in that book. Megan might have wanted to say something to me because she did not like TERRI being in our marriage. And I will give her that she didn't just like embrace this chick, right? So anyway, back to this letter. I'm reading it. I made a copy of that letter. I kept the original. I made a copy of it. And she says in that book that I took some sticky paper or whatever. That was not what happened. At the bottom of the letter, I wrote, because she was threatening, if you don't call me, Ricky Anderson, y'all aren't calling me, Steve, you're not calling me. You got me here. You abandoned me here. You told my mom and them you were going to marry me. I can't find you. I'm hungry, all this kind of stuff. And so she threatened to go to the tabloids. So I just read the letter and I was like, chick, And I really didn't call her chick. I said something else. And I was like, whatever your next move. And she did read that letter to a T in that book. I was like, whatever your next move is, make it. And I signed Marielle Harvey, Steve Harvey's wife. And if you had told me early in my life that I would ever give any man a pass like that, I would have just said, no way, no way, no way. Dude cheat on me, he's out of there. But at that time, we had been together 8 years. Okay, I had my foundation work to do. I didn't want Stephen or Winton to go through this divorce thing. Winton didn't even know, anything was wrong. I didn't either. And for the first time, I had a family. When I was coming up, I didn't have a family. There were like 10 kids, mom and dad. We were all in a 1-bedroom house, and it was just chaos and madness 24/7. So for the first time, I actually had a family, and I had someone that took up for me. I never was afraid because he was there. He was like the brother, daddy, uncle, everybody. And that meant a lot to me. And my family meant a lot to me. And he knew that because I told him about my family when I met him. And I was telling him about how important everybody was to me. I felt safe for the first time in my life. So I said to myself, I said, okay, we've got family, we've got friends, we're doing work in the community. I'm not going to throw all that away because this chick got played. So that was my message to her. Do what you got to do. I'm not going to throw my family away. I'm not going to do it just because, you got yourself in a horrible situation. But in that letter, she did mention the abortion in that letter. And that kind of bothered me because it's like, okay, he's cheating with this woman. And worse than that, he's not using protection. And that kind of sent me into orbit emotionally. But I'm trying to tell you, I just tried to just black that whole thing out because I couldn't. I said, okay, it's more important for me to look at the big picture here. And I couldn't believe I was saying it. I couldn't believe I was doing it. I really couldn't. Anyway, it was time for me to get on that plane and go to Chicago. I called him and I said, what is this chick talking about? Who's TERRI? What's going on? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Then he went into this whole story about this guy that used to work for us. And the guy got mad because he got fired. And he told me he was going to get me back. And this is what this about, And I'm just listening to him on the phone. He was like, he told me he's going to try to break us apart, and he's going to come up with this story. And I'm just listening to him on the phone. I'm like, okay, this dude had nothing else to do but find a invisible chick, make up a story about Megan's mama, and all this kind of mess. So I said, okay, Steve, I'll talk to you when I get to Chicago. That was really when he first started doing radio. He was sitting in for Tom Joyner. So I said to myself, when I get there and I look at him in his face, I'm going to know absolutely he is just lying. So I get to the restaurant and he came over to sit next to me. And I was like, go over there. Because I wanted to look right across the way at him. So he was looking kind of nervous. And he said, well, hey, girl, how you doing? And I did not say a word. And he said, what you feel like eating? And I still didn't say anything. I just kept looking right at him. And, when people got that lie inside of them, and I wasn't really giving up any information. And it seemed like the less I said, the more he was trying to compress that feeling of I'm lying. And then it's like the lion just started to just ooze up. And and his nose was like twitching and whatever. And he kept looking off to the side. And I'm like, what are you looking over there for? Look at me. Look at me. And that's when I knew he was lying about TERRI. I knew absolutely then he was lying. But I don't know what else happened that night. I know I got up from dinner, if I'm remembering it correctly. Y'all just have to bear with me. This was a long time ago. And I've had a breakdown in the middle of all of that. So I don't know what happened that night, but obviously we went back to LA, picked our life back up. So I'm just kind of out there in the water, y'all. You wanted to redirect this somewhere else, y'all just have to tell me. Because like I said, there's a lot of living. You have to ask me, what happened in that book that you want me to comment on.
Geneva, you go next.
I forgot I'm muted. I was about to ask you, okay, so where does Cassie come in all of this? And y'all know Cassie is the lady who plays as Miss Ella on The House of Pain. Remember that? So now Mary is about to clear this up, because in the book there's the part where Mary was just talking about the sticky note. It's returned back to Terry. Terry like, oh my God, how did this get here? What, did Steve come over here? Okay, now can you tell us, how did that letter get back?
Yeah, Cassie dropped that off because I had to get on the plane. And I said, Cassie, take this envelope. And she's right about that. The envelope was open. Terry said in that book it was open, and it was. I told Cassie, take it over there, call me and let me know if this actually is a physical address. And it was. She dropped that thing off at the house, and then she called me when I got to the hotel in Chicago. She was like, yeah, that's an address. And I was like, wow, okay. Some more truth that I didn't want to hear. But anyway, Cassie and I met Cassie in a play. Chip Fields had written this play called Sing Me One More Song. I met Cassie in that play. We started to talking. She didn't like me right away because she thought I was all sedity or whatever. And then we started talking about Louisiana, Mississippi. I'm from Louisiana. She's from Mississippi. So she kind of chilled out on all of that. Long story short, I hired her to be my personal assistant. We were together for like 10 years. I trusted her. She was my friend. Just whatever she needed, I was there for her. Just was there for her. Whether she needed, like when she first started working for me, she lived closer to South Central LA, and I actually moved her up to Beverly Hills where I was, so she could just be closer to me. I moved her in the building where Steve and I were, downstairs in the building, and I paid her rent because we were paying her, but it wasn't to the point to where I said, okay, now you can be my personal assistant. I'll give you $5,000 a week. It wasn't like that because I had just hired her. She was not making enough money because that apartment costs a lot of money because of that building, and but I was only paying her what I was going to pay her. So I paid the rent for that apartment the entire time she was in that building. And that was the kind of thing that I did for her because she was my friend and I wanted her to be comfortable. And I did things like that for her. And I remember one time too, she had this this real little raggedy car. And she really felt bad when the guys would pull it up in the front, because they always, can they bring my car up or whatever? And they would bring it up and it just looked really crazy. But anyway, at that time, I think it was Steve called a dealership and actually got her a brand new car. So I was like, Steve, let's just do something better than that for her. So he called down there, got the car. That's how she got the new car. But we did everything together. We did. And a lot of times when we went places, people were like rude to her. And I didn't really like that. So, I just kind of give her a hug, right? And say, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about them. We're cool. We're good. But, that's what we did. I always took her shopping, and I just didn't buy me stuff. I included her. I included her in my life. She was like my sister. That's how she was to me. She was like my sister. I would have done anything, given her anything, hands down. That's how we were. And later on, I'll just say later on, in 2004, when I was at my home that I was thrown out of, Cassie came in there crying. And I said, what's the matter? And in hindsight, thinking about it, she's an actress. I'm pretty sure she walked up that day and was like, whew, okay, just get this cry on. So she came in there crying, talk about something that going on in her life. And I don't want to, I don't like talking about people when they passed away. So I'm going to try to be as delicate as I can. Her mom had just lost her husband, and some things kind of just went wrong financially. And she told me her mom was about 2 seconds from being thrown out of her home. And of course, she was my girlfriend. I didn't ask nothing other than, what can I do? She told me how much she needed. $40,000. That's what she said. I did not think about it. And I was like, what's your mom's account? Let's just do it. Literally pushed the button. It was there without any question. No question at all. But the divorce hit. Bye-bye, Mary. Bye-bye. Nothing. Till today. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Right. And I think that's the thing that I'm surprised about. That when you, first of all, when Mary told me this story, I was like, who? From what? House of Pain? Because from the House of Pain, she just seemed like a sweet, just a sweet little lady or whatever. So then when I heard that she owed you the 40,000, I think my thing was because you was like that she worked for Tyler Perry. Maybe she didn't want to mess up things with Steve and stuff like that. But I'm like, but still on the side, you think she would have came on the side and gave you a call and said, look, Mary, don't say nothing to Steve and Tyler, but you was my girl, you been there for me. Let me slide you a little money since I'm working doing these plays and these movies and TV shows. But she didn't say nothing.
Right. I mean, I understand the industry. I didn't want her to like jeopardize her job or nothing, but just like you said, like on the side to say, hey, I'm on the set. I was just thinking about you. You need something? This your girl? I mean, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not one phone call. And I'm telling you another thing too. My family, when they found out I gave her that money, it's when I told y'all. My family didn't even know I had given her that money until I told y'all about what?
You know what
I think it was on I had told, when did? All I know is my family did not know anything about that money. And when I was talking about it, and I know my sister Nancy, and I love her dearly. When her husband passed, I gave her some money, and it was less than half of what I gave Cassie. And she didn't say anything to me. She was like, wow, you helped her like that? I said, yeah. So anyway, Cassie really, that was like, and I just felt so bad because it's like I had all these people hanging around me that I knew why they were hanging around me, but you could have never told me in a million years that she was do that to me. And like I said, in hindsight, when I think about that day, I said, wow, she probably wasn't even crying legitimately. And then I said to myself, her mama or sisters or whatever may not even known I gave her that money. She might have just taken it and kept it for herself. How do I know that that was even her mother's bank account? So I started thinking about all that. And, but it's, I don't know. I don't want to say, you can't trust anybody. Yes, you can. And I try not to let one or two people just kind of make me feel like, there was nobody out there I could trust. But that kind of stepped me back a bit. It did. And even when I think about it now, and to tell you the truth, I was on Instagram, and this was yesterday, and I was feeling some kind of way. I'm like, Terry, I was in there looking at that carton of eggs, okay? And that was really funny when she said that in that book. I was like, no, she didn't say eggs. But anyway, I was feeling a little some kind of way trying to catch up with my COVID rent and all of that, you know. And I saw a clip from House of Pain on Instagram, and she was in that clip. And they were doing some kind of little fast motion, little dance or something, and she was looking all happy. And I went all outside of myself. You know, I try to hold myself together. I try to hold my cool together. I try to be like my mom to say, mind your P's and Q's, you're a lady. But I went all outside a lady yesterday. And I wrote under there, I said, hello, bestie. Are you jumping up and down because of that $40,000 I gave you? I'm sorry. You know, I just came outside of myself. Hey, I'm not perfect. I had a moment. I acted on it, and that's that. What can I say?
I get it. Cassie, where Mary money at, girl? You done made enough money with your plays, your movies, everything else.
Yeah,
Where is Mary money? She want her
that,
40,000. Mary, look, I have to ask you this question because before I forget, girl, I gotta ask you this because this is practically in so many articles when Steve Harvey is speaking of motivation and all of this other stuff. Was Steve homeless? Was he homeless, sleeping in his car and all of this stuff?
Steve Harvey was never homeless a day in his life. Not one time. Because let's just add this up. Between your mama's house, Marsha's house, my apartment, and whatever you had purchased for Marjorie, what point in there would he have time to be homeless? Okay, the closest he ever came to homeless was when I think it was a year into our relationship. And he kept saying, I want you to go out on the road with me. I want you to go. And he wasn't making a lot of money. And all I had was what I was making from the store. So I said, I cannot just quit my job and go out there. So I guess it was about a year and a half later, I actually quit the job. And he was like, you got to go. I need you out here. So there were nights when we had to get from like Dallas to Miami or whatever. Obviously, you can't drive that in one sitting. So yeah, there were some times when we would pull over to a park or whatever. Steve was never homeless a day in his life. And all this People magazine from homeless to a millionaire and all of that. No, he was never hungry. He might have been hungry needing a sandwich, but nowhere near to not having no food, not having no home. I lived in the projects, never lived in the projects a day in his life. Okay. Not once, not one time. Now, he did tell me that when they all came from Welch, West Virginia, that the first place they had, his dad, there was like a 1-bedroom apartment over this liquor store. And his dad, he had his 2 sisters there, and one of them had 2 children. It was Steve there. Both of his brothers were there. But they were not homeless. Steve's dad was very proud. There is no way under the sun he would have allowed his wife and his children to ever be homeless. Never, ever, ever was he ever homeless. No.
That's horrible.
Absolutely not.
Wow.
That's horrible to know he'll lie like that. Mary, too, I want to let you know, when you're talking, we're muting our mics so the echo won't be in the mic when you're talking. So just to let you know. So if you're mute, so we mute you. But I'm just saying, you just lied like that, brother. All this time, people think this dude was homeless, didn't have nowhere to go. So you started from the ground up. So all that's a lie. Steve, that book should have been named Steve Will Lie When the Truth Will Do. That's what it should have been named.
Mary, was you saying something? Because I had you muted. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, right. Because this is what I wanted to ask you. Because when we were talking the other day, I remember asking you, with all the cheating that Terry mentioned in the book, and the things that you had to endure, like what was going on, like his backstory, his mom and his dad, like did you see some issues going on with his mom or something that would cause him to treat women like that? So what would you say about that, Mary?
It was sad. His mother, I mean, Steve was the baby. He was her baby, and she was older when she had him, because he said that she would come to his school and his friends was like, "Who was that? Is your grandmother?" And he said, from time to time that was a little embarrassing, but she loved Steve, and she'd never missed Steve's birthday. She sent him birthday cards up until the day she died. He was like in his late 40s, and she was sending him birthday cards, but Steve had that kind of love for his mother, in that he knew at the end of the day, when he couldn't get no love from nobody, he knew his mom would be there unconditionally. Now, on the other side of that, no, he did not have that for her. He loved her for what little security that she gave to him. And it was really sad because his mom was always calling me to say, "Mary, can you please ask Steve to call me?" And I thought that was like the saddest thing that I ever heard, that she would have to call me to get Steve to call her. And or sometimes he just wouldn't, And then when the career started picking up, there were people definitely in his life that he felt like were disposable. And we all know our children. I know my two boys. I know their characteristics or whatever. But I think Ma, she kind of knew, Steve was kind of detached sometimes, which is why she was always taking him to church, like she was trying to save his soul big time. And but Steve really had this complacent relationship with his mother. It was like, yeah, you're here for when I need you. That's the words. Those are the exact words that I want to use. You're here for when I need for you to be a mother. And that's just basically how he sees people in general. But I remember one of his shows, and I don't know how recent it was. He was on there crying, saying that he had bought his mother a house. And I was like, was it a house different than the one they were living in? Because Mama, she never would have wanted another house. She's an older people. Older people, they don't want to uproot and go somewhere else. So every Christmas, I always made sure that, they were taken care of. Mama didn't need nothing. Daddy didn't need nothing. But I always make sure, they got their little chunk of change. And it was quite a chunk of change. And Steve Daddy always, he was like, "What you got for me, chicken?" I don't know why, but he called me Little Chicken. That was his nickname. "Hey, Little Chicken." So I always made sure Daddy had his. I always made sure Mama had hers. So one Christmas, I said, "Steve, is this house paid off? Your mom and daddy's house paid off?" And he said, "I don't think so." So I went and asked Daddy. I said, "So how long have you been paying, mortgage on this house?" Because I didn't want him to get the hint that I was thinking about paying the house off. And he told me, and I told Steve that would be the perfect thing to do, was to pay this house off and give them that lease. So that lease was in a box with the money, gave it to Daddy and Mama. Now, on his own, Steve would have never thought to just pay for that house. He doesn't have those kind of thoughts, because those are too small and intimate. He would have never thought to do that. So when he was saying he bought his mama a house, I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you absolutely did not do that. No, you didn't. Cross my heart on that one. No, he didn't.
Men will lie when the truth will do. Steve will lie when the truth will do. Geneva, you didn't unmute.
So he didn't have a good relationship with his mom and what his
Mm,
siblings, his what,
no,
all of them, what?
no, not really. I think the way the when he talked about his two older brothers, um, they were a little hard on him. I don't think they meant to be, and he was really in a bad situation because it's almost like he had three fathers. You know, he had his dad, and his dad was just, man, a provide for the family guy. And then he had his older brother, Jesse Jr., and Jesse was like, ugh, like 20 years or something crazy older than Steve. And then Terry, he called him Ter. He was like 12 years older than Steve. So it was like Steve had three fathers in there. And, and they didn't mean any harm, but they were always trying to say, man, toughen up, get out from under mama, always hanging on to mama, blah, blah, blah. And that did something to him. I really do believe that. And it caused him to feel some kind of way about his brothers and his father. And I'm not guessing on this because I talked to him a lot. He did talk to me quite a bit, and I grew to know a lot about him. I really did. I knew more about him than anybody. And for some reason, he felt like he could really open up to me. He opened up to me a lot of things. I knew into here more than anybody. And I also knew into here that he was a little not where he needed to be. But to some extent, I kind of like closed in that gap, so to speak. And he appreciated that about me. But no, I mean, he didn't hate his mom. Don't get me wrong, but she was more in love with him than he was with her. And I remember when he was doing the Steve Harvey show with the principal and all of that, she had been calling me all that week. And she was like, Mary, please tell Steve to call me. And I was calling him on the set. And I said, your mom wants to talk to you. Call her. And he said, I'll call her when I'm done. So that's when I got the call back and it was a long time ago. I don't know if it was later that evening or that morning. And Mama had a stroke. And it was bad. And it was really weird because she wasn't sick. She was not sick at all. No one saw that coming. She had a stroke. She went into the hospital, and that was that. She never woke up, none of that. And she never got that phone call that she wanted. She never got that call.
Did
So
Steve,
go ahead.
did Steve like, okay, so she never got the call. So did Steve see her? Did she pass away? I mean, did he even, when she got sick, what happened?
We got to the hospital, and the doctor had already told me. And she said, just let him know she doesn't look the same. She's not going to look like herself at all. And when I got there, and I went into the room before he got there, and Mama, it was bad. It was really bad. She had a horrible stroke, and like her face was twisted, and one side of her body, it wasn't good at all, not at all. And I really didn't want him to see her, and she was really basically gone. But the doctor didn't want to take the machine. The machine was just pushing her heart or whatever. But the doctor didn't want to take any of that off until all the family got there. So he walked in. She was gone. She did not know he was there from all the other 20, 30 people there. She didn't know. So he never got to say anything. He just said, Mama, really loud, and he fell on the blanket, on top of her. But she was gone, and maybe I'm not gonna say, I'm pretty sure he regretted not calling her. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think he did it on purpose. I guess if he thought, I'm sure if he thought she was going to pass away, he probably would have called her. But she didn't get to talk to him. That was the last time I talked to her, when she said, "Have Steve call me."
Terry, can you because you never really spoken of, because people know about Winton, but they don't know that you have an older son. A lot of people don't know anything about your older son. So can you give
Yeah.
people a little information that you have two children? She has two children.
I had Stephen. That's with the Steven. Already when I met Steve from my first marriage. Stephen was 4 when I met Steve, and he got to know Steve, as a second father. Um, and he actually started to spend more time with us. So at some point in there, he really was kind of closer to Steve than he was with his real dad at some point, some intervals in there. I'm not saying, he used Steve to replace his father or whatever. It's just that I know he and Steve was very, very, very close. And what really messed me up was that Stephen was 13 when Winton was born. And with Stephen being my only child for 13 years, he didn't really know quite how he felt about that. So when I came from the hospital with Winton, and Stephen was sitting in the family room on the sofa, and I saw him looking kind of sad watching TV. And I said, well, okay, I can't let this go anywhere else. So I walked over to him with Winton, and I said, can you hold Winton, while I go in the kitchen or whatever? Because I wanted them to be brothers. I didn't want Stephen to think that he was no longer important to me because I had Winton. So he sat there, he held Winton, and I said, well, he's going to need a big brother. I can't teach him big brother stuff, and he's going to need you. And he did. It wasn't like I was saying something that wasn't true. I just knew I had to bring my boys together. I was not going to have that gap there and it just had it go somewhere else. I wasn't going to do that. So they were very tight. They were very, very, he became very protective of Winton after that. And a lot of times Stephen was there when his dad wasn't there. When Steve wasn't home, I didn't want to come home, or it wasn't convenient for he to be there when he didn't want to play dad. You see that picture. Stephen was there. Stephen was there. And what broke me to my heart was that we were all close. And when, after the third time, I had filed for divorce, the third time with Steve, because I just didn't feel like mentally I could deal with him anymore. And I would always look at Winton, because Winton didn't know we were having issue. And I just said, I can't do it to my baby. I can't take his daddy away from him. But this was after TERRI. She wasn't even in the picture anymore. I had just become emotionally tired of everything the marriage was doing to me. So anyway, Steve said to Stephen, your mom's real close to you. She'll listen to you. Because I had Stephen when I was 24. So a lot of times people thought we were like more sister and brother than anything. So he said to Stephen, you're real close to your mama. I want you to convince her not to do this. If you tell her not to do it, she won't do it. But on the other side of it, Stephen had found some stuff on this computer. Steve had given Stephen one of his old computers, and Stephen had found all these girls and stuff on it. And he was torn. Like, do I tell my mother and upset her? Do I not tell her and let this guy just keep carrying on or whatever? So he showed me the stuff that was on the computer. And Steve, I got mad at him about that. And he was like, I needed you to talk to your mom. You didn't do it. And now she's going to go ahead with this divorce. And I mean, he just cursed Stephen blind. I was not there. Stephen told me after the fact, and it was very hurtful for him because he really did look up to Steve quite a bit. He really did. He tried to just be whatever Steve needed him to be. He really did. And that just devastated Stephen. I mean, he called him the B word. You're not SHIT. You're not ever going to be SHIT. Get out of my face. And after that, Stephen had told me one time that Steve got really mad at him about something. And he said that he was in his room. Oh, I know what it was. Stephen had stepped out of his Nikes. He didn't untie them. He just kind of, stepped off of the back of them. And Steve went in his room and he saw them. And he said that Steve just, with all of his strength and might, reared back and pow in his chest. As hard as he could, knock the air out of Stephen. He fell back on the bed. He was out.
How old?
And
How old was he?
13, I think. But he didn't tell me this until, after the divorce. And I really did not know, he would do that to Stephen like that, because that's not like, boy, I told you not to step out them shoes, or I'm taking your phone or whatever. I don't know. But that was just straight up brutal. It really was. It really was. When you knock the wind out of somebody, come on. That's not you fighting another grown man. This is a kid. This was a kid. And his cousin David was there. And he was like, it's true, Aunt Mary. That's what he did. And it just really hurt me. That's all, because I never was physical with my boys. We all had an understanding. My mother and father was always beating up on us like, I'm not even going to say dogs, because now, you hit somebody's dog or whatever, they're going to file charges on you. So I'm not even going to say dogs, but my parents, bless their hearts, it was horrible. So I always said to myself, I wanted my boys to respect me as their mother. I didn't want them to fear me like I'm some zombie walking around the house. And I always had an understanding with them that they could tell me anything. If anything was wrong, if anything was happening, if they did something wrong, or if I saw them doing something wrong, we had a conversation. And just out of respect for me, I never had to put my hands on my children, because I didn't want to do to them what my parents did to me. And when I found that out, that just really hurt me. But I didn't find it out for years after that. And
I know that's kind of touchy subject. I understand. So yeah. For everybody who's joining us, I want to thank you guys for joining us and everything. So you guys just wait for the questions and want to regroup a little bit, okay?
Yep. Now, what I wanted to say, Mary, is what in the world I was going to? I had to get my mind and stuff together. That was a lot of information right there about the whole Stephen thing, because that just made me think about the whole child abuse thing. And Stephen didn't tell you this until after the fact, but now that story just confirms the child abuse with Winton. And Mary, you have to tell the people. You have to, because y'all know that video, that little slight where Mary came on, and that 30 minutes about a week ago, and she gave, she talked to y'all a little bit. But in that, she had told y'all that she has not, well, she didn't say a whole lot about it, but she said she has not talked to her son, Winton, in a while. So she's going to get into that. And I just want to let y'all know, in this interview, we will not be discussing everything, because we don't even have the time. We'll be sitting on here for multiple hours, several hours, trying to talk about everything. So Mary, if she wants, she will come back and Mary will tell the rest of her truth if she chooses to. But for now, Mary, you have to tell the people about the story where Winton got snatched out of college. I mean, because that's horrible, and that involves Lori, that involves the security boomerang, that involves Marjorie. Like how they treated Winton. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. Mary gonna tell you.
Well, first of all, I do want to address the abuse. If you got a minute, I want to talk about that. Um, my worst mornings and night. There's not a morning or a night that does not go by. And that picture, it was my weekend with my baby. And when I saw him cut up like that, I see it every night before I go to sleep. And it's in my face every morning. And I want to say this for all the people out there that keeps telling me what I need to move on and get over, thinking that it has something to do with Steve Harvey, and it does not. He is who he's with. I'm glad he's over there. It's his twin. It's his match. I could care less. But what things that do bind me to that is my baby. For that to look the way it did 2 weeks after, and I'm going to say attack, that wasn't a chastisement. He was attacked. Because what I think about, was he scared? Who was hitting him? Was it her? Was it him? Was he out of his clothes? Was he screaming? Because he couldn't have had clothes on for his back to get cut up like that. And even at what, 10, Winton's little backside was pretty much the same size when he was a little boy. He's a stringy, tall little fella, little guy. And all I kept thinking to myself was that I was not there to stop that from happening to him. Was he thinking about me? Was he calling to me in his head? And how can you shame a young man like that when they're going into their manhood, to strip him down like that, and you just beat him till he bled? How do you take a belt and you wrap it around your hand with the buckle part hanging? You're beating him with that. So much so, I saw the impression of that buckle inside of his thigh, to where it must have just wrapped around him like a whip. And as far as that paddle, that pledge paddle, it is amazing to me that Steve did not take his hard licks. He did not take his hard licks to become this cute person. But Winton took those licks with that paddle. And I think about it every morning and every night, that after they beat him like that and sent him to his room, he must have curled up and wanted somebody. He wanted somebody to hold on to, or to comfort him and hug him, to say it'll be okay. And I knew at that moment that changed him. He would never be the same, never. Because my baby, he was a sensitive little boy, a kind, sweet little boy. And I never put my hands on him in his whole life. And for you to go from that to being brutally beaten, go to your room. And I think, how long did he lay up there by himself and cry? How demeaned did he feel? Because that's what happened to me when I was a kid. Somebody just beat you like you're not even a human being. And I just beat myself up because I was not there to keep them off of him. And I know it changed him. Because I'm sitting here at 60 years old, and I can recall every time my parents brutalized me. So there is no way at 24 he doesn't reflect back to that, even if he tries to shut it out. That changed him. You don't do a little boy like that. You don't do a little girl like that. Because you know what, y'all, when you think about it, everybody has puppies and dogs and kitties. That's just the way it is now. And people look at their pets like they're part of the family. And I want everybody that does not have kids, if you do not have a child and you have your puppy, your dog or whatever, and they're like your children, how would you feel if you come home and somebody has just whipped your puppy past his fur and he's bleeding? You wouldn't say, well, go over here and watch TV. Guess I'll go get over it. Such and such did this, but go get over it. You call the police, you call the ASPCA people or whatever. Somebody would have to go to jail. Somebody would have to pay a fine or something. So I'm not even going to say, he treated Winton like he would treat a dog. He treated Winton less than what somebody would do to their pet. And for everybody that keeps telling me, Mary need to just move on. This is not about him. This is not about some little car or money he took. It's got nothing to do with that. How do I move forward from having those nightmares about my baby? Every day, every morning, every night, I see that picture and I cry because I wasn't there. And how dare them do that to him? You just gonna beat him because of a school paper? But you know what Winton said? His daddy said, you embarrass me. You embarrass me. You got your teachers calling me, talking about some paper you didn't hand in. So you just gonna beat him senseless because you were embarrassed? Those are the things that will not let me move forward. I'm never going to move forward from that. I don't care if Winton is 37. That does not keep a person from hurting. If something happened to them when they were 10, 11, and 12, them being 37 changes nothing. It changes nothing. To this day, he is changed from it. And then child services, protective services people, they let him down. That judge let him down. Bobby let him down. My attorney let him down. Bobby Edmonds is the Bobby. Bobby Edmonds let him down. Because y'all know Steve Winter got beat. Y'all saw him, you know it. And when you know of child abuse, I don't care if you are a lawyer, you report that and you hold that person accountable. The judge should have held him accountable. Mr. Harvey, I'm sorry, you got to go to jail or something till we figure this out. My attorney should have just filed charges on him. I went to the police department and that's all I could do. I took pictures of it. I took Winton to the hospital and I didn't want to go in there telling the story. I wanted Winton to tell the nurse. She put him in that little gown and She said, what's the problem with your little man? I said, he was having some kind of difficulties when he, urinated. So she said, put the gown on. So he put the gown on. She came back in there and she opened it and she saw all that on him. So she looked at me and she looked at Winton. She said, who did this? And he said, my dad. She went, called the police. And CSI people, they came out, took pictures of it. They made a report. And I'll never forget this policeman, this brother. He was standing there going, oh, this is horrible. How could a father do this? Then the moment he found out who the father was, he turned right around to me and said, do you want to press charges on this? I said, yes. And he said, are you sure you want to do that? And I said, and why shouldn't I not want to do it? And he just kind of looked at me and walked off. But anyway, that next morning, I took Winton to his counselor because he had been seeing a counselor because of me and Steve's separation, divorce, or whatever. I made sure I took the pictures. That's what my lawyer said. Take the pictures, take him to the medical center, take him to see his counselor. I took Winton to his pediatrician, okay? His pediatrician saw that. She documented it, and she said, have you reported this? And I said, yes. Because my attorney told me, you get all of these things together, and then we're going to do like a quick hearing or something to that sort to keep him from going back to Atlanta. So I went down to the police department to get the report that they filled out that night, to put it with the rest of the stuff, to take it to the judge dry at that time, to keep Winton from going back. The Plano Police Department would not give me that report. They would not give it to me. And my best friend that I thought, she was standing right there next to me when they would not give me that report. And to this day, she has not opened her mouth. And she knows who she is. And if she sees this tonight, you know who you are, sweetheart, and you're wrong for that. I don't even want to call her name right now. Anyway, they wouldn't give it to me. And my attorney couldn't include that with the rest of the paperwork. So Winton and I out riding around waiting on the judge's decision because I knew for a fact he was not going to send that baby back up there. Child Services came over there and, they started hemming and hawing when they found out the father that was involved. And my attorney at that time, Jay Padgett, he was supposed to be going down there arguing the point. It didn't go the way he thought it was going to go, or the way I thought it was going to go. He called me because Winton and I were just out riding around, and he called me and said, Mary, he's going to have to go back. What? And all I thought at that moment was, what are they going to do to him when he gets back? What are they going to do to him? If he beat him over a paper and said that embarrassed him, what is he going to do to Winton when Winton gets back? Now that the police has had to call him and the judge is in on it and my attorney is in on it. And the two of them are sitting back there in Atlanta waiting for him. So when my attorney called me and Winton and I were just out riding around, just trying to get it out of our heads. And he said, Winton's got to go back. You got to go back home and because they're coming over to pick him up. And I wouldn't do it. Winton and I stopped. We got something to eat. And I didn't tell Winton right away what that judge had said because I didn't even know how I was supposed to tell him that. So he said, what's the matter, Ma? And I said, the judge said you have to go back. And he started crying. And I said, let me just think. Let's think of something. And we rode around some more. And we went over to this mall and we got out and we were holding hands. And he said, Ma, what are we going to do? And I'm trying to think because I know this guy. I know him. I know He's got the McKinney courthouse, the clerk's office, the police on his side, got Bobby up there with the paperwork and all of that, the judge against us. So you know what Winter said? He said, Mom, let's just go to Mexico. Let's just go to Mexico and never come back. And in his little mind, he felt like that was a choice for us. But I knew it wasn't. You know, it's like, how do we go on the run? And I just felt so bad because he wanted me to do something. And I said, Winton, you know he's not going to leave us alone. He's going to tell the judge I kidnapped you and all kind of crazy mess. And we rode around in that car, and Winton was crying, and I was crying. And my lawyer called me again to say, okay, he's missed that flight that they told you to put him on. Now they're doing another one. And I was like, whatever. We just kept driving around, and he missed that second flight. Then the lawyer called back, and he said, Mary, if you don't get back to the house, they're going to put an APB out on your truck. So I got back to my house, and the police was in our yard. And I looked over at Winton. He started crying. I started crying. And he said, Ma, and I'm standing there going, I'm powerless and I can't help my baby. The police was there with his gun on. There was a black sedan in the driveway waiting for Winton. And Winton got out of the car and he was just screaming. He was just screaming, this is not fair. This is not fair. And he was just screaming. And I was just standing there and I wanted to do something. And I'm like, if I grab him and drive off, they're just going to stop me. So I tried to calm him down. And there was no one in the car but this driver. No one. I'm thinking he sent somebody to get him. There was no one in the car. And I'm still looking around at this cop. And he was like, ma'am, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be here. I'm just doing what they told me to do. I'm sorry. Winton gets in this car. He gets to the airport and he calls me. And one of Steve's workers, Kenny or somebody, Kenny was there. And Winton called me on his phone and he said, Mom, I just ditched Mr. Kenny. I'm at gate 24. Come and get me. He just actually believed that I could just come and get him and we could just ride around forever. So I just said, Winton, you can't be roaming around that airport by yourself. So where's Mr. Kenny? I said, do you see him? He said, yes, I see him. And I said, I know this is so messed up. Then I had to let my baby get back on that plane. And I thought about the whole time on that 3-hour flight. What is he thinking? Is he scared about what's going to happen when he gets back? Is he mad at me? Does he hate me because I couldn't do anything? And then when he got there, all I was thinking about was what are they going to do to him?
Do you need a break, Mary? You okay? I'm gonna speak for a moment, you guys, while she's waiting. When you guys heard Ricky Smiley and he was talking about Mary putting the baby on the plane, so now you know how the baby got on the plane. Mary didn't pay for the plane ticket. She didn't even want her baby to go back. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Right now, all this really has triggered me because when Mary talked about not getting the police report, and I met her in 2013, I just saw a blackmail letter. After I saw the blackmail letter, I saw abuse of a woman and abuse of a child. Within 2 hours after I called Plano Police Department, they surrendered that police report. I allowed them to know that I know y'all covered up child abuse for Steve Harvey, and if you don't give us a police report, I'm going to send the FBI to you. I saw the pictures. I saw the abuse. And like, I'm with Mary. People want to say, why walk away? What you gonna do? I felt like I let Mary down, you know, cause like I saw that and I was abused myself. And to know that police, judges blackmailed me all these years to keep me silent. They kept me silent and blackmailed me and Mary because you abused Winton. I would have rather did time in jail if I could not have helped him. I had those same pictures flashing up in my mind. And the only thing I could think of as an activist, how can I help Mary? How can I help Winton? And I couldn't. And it broke my soul that I had to sit here. He was beaten like a Hebrew slave. I've never seen nothing like that in real life until I was abused. And to know that you want to abuse a baby and take him away from his mother, and Margie was all in on it. But to know that they wouldn't give the biological mother the police report, that was a problem. And then to this day, they continue to harbor these lies and blackmail me and Mary. But it's stopping today. Do what you do. But I and Mary live with that, and she lived with it because she was a mother. And I lived with it because I couldn't help her. And it's still to this day, I'm trying to understand how the court of McKinney, Texas is blackmailing us with a black female judge because you got authority. God has all authority. So when people sit up and say, Essie, why? Because that's what I do. It wasn't because of Mary. I was fighting for her, but I was fighting for her baby, true and true. Don't ask why Winton didn't come. You heard how he was beaten. Steve snatched Winton out of school in 2015 in a college. He was going to go live with his mother. And here comes Steve again. I'm telling y'all, everybody who's listening right now, we've been blackmailed I've been blackmailed since 2013. And I'm not doing it with him no more. Whatever he gonna do, whatever your posse's gonna do, whatever your crooked lawyer judges, do it, because you done lost. But to know that this man beat Winton like he did, and me and Mary had to live with that, there is no, like, jail. There is nothing you could, I lived jail in my life. I lived it when Mary went to jail. She went to jail because they were blackmailing her. And guess what, you guys? She told y'all in 2011. She told you in 2009. And she still got locked up for this man's lies. And when she was telling that story, my heart was breaking because I saw it myself. And I want to call Mary and just tell her I was so sorry because nobody deserved that. Nobody has to be blackmailed to be silenced about their baby. So for every woman that's watching this, we blackmailed to shut up about child abuse. We got to be blackmailed to continue to be silenced. We're blackmailed from judges, not just regular people. Judge Adler Tucker, Bobby Edmond, who's Steve Harvey's lawyer. It's enough now. Do you even hear what she's gone through? And how many mothers gonna walk like that and going through it? I'm straight here to tell you. What they didn't like about me is when everybody turned their back on Mary, I couldn't. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to walk away from her. But I didn't know how to walk away from her baby. So now it's do or die because I'm not gonna live with a lie and know this man abused his kid. I'm not going to live with no judge blackmailing me because I'm an activist. That's what my people died for. So at this point right now, this is like a reliever to see Mary, for her to tell it, for me to just say I apologize because no matter what, I still felt like I failed her. I felt like I failed Winston. I felt like the media wanted to hear what they wanted to hear, but they wasn't listening. So now y'all listening and you know it for yourself. And we would be a damn fool to get on this mic saying any of this if it wasn't true. But every time Mary got on that mic, they snatched her up and they put her in jail. But for some reason, God didn't let that be able to do that with me. So I'm loving Mary for at least telling her story and getting her truth out. Because at the end of the day, we don't know what went through, what he mentally went through. But when I saw the pictures, I know what I went through. I can imagine what Mary went through. So you got to understand about everything. And this is not about Steve. This is about women who done sat up here and he has really actually tried to murder women's souls mentally, physically, and emotionally. And this dude don't care. But it's enough now. And I don't want to live with it no more. And still to this day, there's nothing that Mary could do to say, Essie is okay, because I still could help her get her baby back. I still had to know that he lived with Steve as a monster and I couldn't help him. And don't nobody care about you going to get Winton, because Winton, they try to come on this mic to make that baby lie for you, Steve. That's what you did for all these years. So now ain't nobody else lying for Steve Harvey. Y'all take his ass on off the air. He's a woman abuser. He's a child abuser. He's a blackmailer. And I've been blackmailed and his wife been blackmailed long enough. He didn't even want us to be friends. Why? Why you didn't want us to be friends? You didn't want us to be friends because you knew I would be there. And I'm still going to ride with it. It don't matter. I'm connected. I'm invested. How do you just walk away? And it ain't got nothing with her doing nothing with this dude, Steve. We made our own connection. It ain't like Mary Rich. This nigga took everything away from her. It was the principle. It was the principle. And what I can say, y'all, this Hollywood shit is something else. Because as long as you up there, a celebrity can go say whatever he wants to say, and they're going to believe it. Look at Mary for years until my loud mouth got on the internet, right? Y'all believe everything about Steve. But you can't believe and you can't stop God's property. Here, now, tomorrow, or later, these things exist. And they exist because we had to remain in silent and be blackmailed by Collins County, McKinney, Texas, Angela Tucker, Judge Dry, Bobby Edmond, who's an attorney, Ricky Anderson, who's an attorney. We've been blackmailed for all these years. So whatever's going to happen now, let all the chips fall where they're made. And let me say one more thing. Mary or me, I'm going to be honest with you. I will never live this down. I want to get past it. But I will always blame myself a little bit. Because in 2013, when Steve went and lied and said I was a co-conspirator and extortionist, that was just another way to blackmail us to shut up. Because everything Mary's saying is now is true. And if it wasn't, what you get trying to gag somebody for, and she ain't gagged no more. Gag for what? For telling her life? For saying, nigga, you blackmailing us and you think it was okay? It ain't okay no more. And until the bitter end, until I know she's okay, that's why we on this mic today. Period. I'm done.
I want to talk about this thing in Miami, Geneva, if I can. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. When Winston was in college in Florida, he and I really had started talking again. I think he was 16, 17. And Steve was calling Winston all the time when he was down there. Every minute, every second. And I said, Winston, just give yourself a break. You know, you don't have to pick up every time he calls. Just give yourself a break. You're not being disrespectful. Just give yourself a break. Somehow he found out. He called Winston and Winston answered the phone. And he said, who were you talking to? You know, if I call you, you answer your phone. Who are you clicking over to? And Winston said, I'm talking to my mom. And he went into a rage. I could hear him on the phone. Why are you talking to your MF and mother? mama, and what y'all talking about? And Winton didn't say anything. And Steve was screaming. I said, what the F y'all talking about? What the F are y'all talking about? And he said, okay, you're going to come up out that college. And Winton was down there without a car. He wasn't getting no kind of decent kind of money because Steve was trying to control his whereabouts. So in the middle of the night, he sent his bodyguard down there, and they had a truck. And they started pulling Winton's stuff out of that dorm. His clothes. They took his computer. They took his driver's license, social security card. They took his phone, because I heard Marjorie screaming on the phone, telling the bodyguard, take that MF and phone, break that MF. That's what she said. Break that MF and phone. And then everything went dead. His roomies were so afraid of what was going on, they called Winton's girlfriend at that time, not the one he's with now, but she called me and she said, Miss Mary, I'm scared for Winton. Somebody's down there yanking him out of school. And I called the campus police and I told him to go over there and check on him. And when he got there, Winton's friend said that someone came in, I think they work for his dad, and drug him out of there. And they were saying a lot of his clothes and stuff was there. You know, a lot of his belongings were just still on the floor because they were trying to get him out of there. So the campus police called me back and he said, everything is under control, ma'am. I said, so I guess that means you talked to Steve. And what did he do? What did he tell you? That I was crazy or I was mad, I was jealous? He said, well, all I can say is everything is fine, ma'am. That's the report. So I told him, when you make that report, send me a copy, but he didn't. So I told the guy, I said, until I know that he's okay, I'm going to keep calling you. Who's your superior? Who? So he said, ma'am, I'll see what I can do. And about an hour later, Winton called me and he said, hey, Mom. I said, where are you? He said, I'm back in Chicago. That's when Steve was doing that show from Chicago. And I said, where are you? He said, I'm with Dad. I'm okay. And he was trying to, I'm okay, Mom, you know. Obviously, one of them or both of them were standing there. I said, well, as long as you're okay. And I knew he wasn't. You know, what was I going to say? But before they got to him, when he saw that truck screech up there, Winter said, Mom, they're here. And he said, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do, Mom. He didn't have any money. He didn't have a car. I said, well, Winton, you don't have to go with them. I said, do they see you yet? He said, no, ma'am. I said, just walk around the corner. And I said, where are they? He said, they're going up the steps to my dorm room. And I said, just walk away. I'll figure out a way to get you out of there, get you on the plane, just walk away. And the next thing I knew, that's when I heard Marjorie on that phone screaming. So that was another time he asked me what to do, and I couldn't help him. But I wanted to say that was what happened in Miami.
And that story is just absolutely horrible, how they snatched him out of college. Now, you said he was how old when he was in college, Mary?
He was 16.
So he was 16 in college?
Yeah, his first year.
Yep, I seen the police reports on that, and I seen Marjorie name on right. So I did actually see the police report, and Marjorie name is on there. Lori name is on there. It mentions Megan, the secretary, something the assistant, something about she returned his Wait a minute, let me mute that. She returned the his room key back to the people. I mean, so that whole story was just horrible. But the thing about that is, I think that was at the same time Steve was mentioning something about Winston being in college or going to college. What you say, Mary?
Yeah, he was saying the police was saying that Winton voluntarily gave his key back, and his family came and got him. That's when you saw everybody's names on that report. They went into that Brady Bunch mode like it wasn't nothing wrong.
Wait, can I say something that I probably don't even really have to say, but I'm just finna say it just for the sake of everybody's supposed to be adults, because I know I'm in my 40s and Essie in her 50s and Mary in her 60s, and I could have sworn everybody over here in my chat was grown, but then I got people sitting up here so concerned about, so Winton went to college at 16, so he must have been the genius. Who the hell cares? Now, let's just say for the sake of it, Mary could be off by a year, but you want to sit there and focus on the fact that she said 16, and who the hell cares? We sitting up here talking about a whole situation, and y'all concerned about Winston going to college at 16 or 17. So that must be. Sorry,
Mary,
that
can
was me. I accidentally pressed something.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so Essie, was it something that you wanted to say? Because Mary said a lot. Y'all had me over here tearing. Like, that was some deep stuff right there. That was some deep stuff.
I just want to say,
I'm gonna let both of y'all go on for a minute so I can take a minor bathroom break. So I'm gonna let Essie handle this.
we won't be echoing.
No, I'm gonna turn mine off.
Mary said something. What Mary say?
Oh.
You need a break?
Mm-hmm.
You want a break?
Yeah.
Can y'all give us a few minutes? We go on a break for a second.
Oh my God, trying to remember the mute and the mute. I'm trying to do all of this. I'm saying that we have been on here for a while. It's almost 2 hours. I know this has been a lot. Mary has expressed a lot. I don't want to overwhelm her. This is her interview. It's all about her. So if my guest isn't feeling her best, then maybe we should, because she's expressed a lot, then maybe we should cut it short. And then if Mary chooses to come back and share some more of her story with you all, then she will do that. How do you feel about that, Mary?
You mean later tonight or another day?
Probably another day.
Yeah,
Because
another
if we
day.
get off tonight, I'm not coming back on.
Yeah,
What you say?
yeah.
Okay, that's
Another
good.
day.
Okay. All right then. So I think that's what we are going to do. But we are extremely appreciative of Mary taking the time to come on here and speak about her life, because we know this is very difficult for her. And anytime she talks about her sons, she always gets emotional. I mean, but of course she would. Us mothers love our babies, don't we? Don't we just love our children? But yeah, we definitely want to try to have Mary come back if we can, if she wants to, because y'all know I said in them videos, them pictures with Margie and her son and stuff, like I wasn't feeling that stuff. I feel a certain way about that, and I know if I feel a certain way, Mary does too. But anyway, people, is there anything you wanted to say, Essie? Wait, Mary saying something. What you say, Mary?
We'll talk about all that inappropriate behavior.
Yes, we sure will. Essie, was it anything you wanted to say?
Thank you everybody for coming in, listening to Mary, standing with me, Mary and Geneva. To me, for real, it has been a hard road. When I hear certain things, I trigger. But I have much love for the people who come in our box, as well as Geneva and Mary. So, I just want to let you guys know we're venting a little bit, but this is like a new beginning for all of us. We got some things that's going on right now too in the background, and I'm very excited about it. but this is just things that you guys have went through. So I think, like Mary telling you and seeing how beautiful and strong she is right now, she's a living motto of what a woman, from being scorned to a mental breakdown, taking a shot, and look at her, beautiful as all outdoors, you guys. And the personality is that's just that much beautiful, you know. So much pleasure for me and Mary being in my life, because it's something about Mary. I don't know what it is, but we just clicked. And I want Mary to know it doesn't matter how many people stood or didn't stand for her. Essie will always stand for her. The right is right, you guys, and wrong is wrong. And no matter what, I'm the type person, when I connect, I can't just break it off like that. And all this right now has happened for a reason. And the reason is going to be bigger than you guys could ever even imagine. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity for Mary to come over here and share her story. And we start getting strong together as sisters in all of this. I'm done.
Absolutely. Somebody said yes, because I will hurt somebody for my son. Right. They said something about their child. Exactly, because that's exactly how we feel about our children. But I do want to say before I leave too, please make sure, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you so much. And please make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to Geneva's Closet if you haven't already done so, right here on YouTube. And you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Geneva's Closet. And you can email me. Yes, you can, people. At genevascloset22@gmail.com. Once again, I want to thank Essie Berry and Mary Harvey for coming here today. Mary for telling her story. We'll try to be back at a later time. People, excuse the audio. We had any audio issues. If you'd like to advertise your business in Geneva's Closet, make sure you email me at genevascloset22@gmail.com. Other than that, people, you all have a fabulous evening, and we will talk to you later. Bye. What? Mary said something?
I want to say bye to everybody.
Oh, Mary wants to say something. Go ahead, Mary.
Go, Mary. Oh, she might have clicked on off.